Welcome to this PCOC Minute, your source for pest control related news and information here in California. This week, the Department of Pesticide Regulations released an enforcement letter regarding the use of sanitizers and disinfectants by pest control operators here in California. To break down this letter, to kind of clarify some things, Cully Christensen sat down with the Executive Vice President here at PCOC, Chris Reardon. So let's jump over to that discussion.
Hello, Chris. Why don't you remind everybody what you do for PCOC?
Hi, Cully. Good to see you again, and thank you for helping PCOC communicate this message. Yeah, I'm the Executive Vice President for the Pest Control Operators of California, or we affectionately call PCOC, and I've been doing this for nearly 4 years. And I'm glad to be here and glad to represent an industry that is an essential service as well.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say that, I've had limited involvement with PCOC over the years, but you seem to do a great job. You run a great organization, and I really appreciate everything PCOC has been doing for our industry here in California. Well, one of the reasons why we're involved in helping this, putting these out.
Let me just, on behalf of, you might see my face a lot, but I tell everybody when we go to district meetings or I'm at anything out in public that, there is a team, as you know, behind it. So I have an absolutely fabulous staff that could never do what we do without them. I also have my executive team and, over the last 4 years, just tremendous leadership on our executive committee at PCOC. And people have been great to me. I mean, I think, you can feel sort of this esprit de corps, and, we've had challenges, as you know, and they're not going to go away anytime soon. There's no way we can do this without everybody. So I'm very, very appreciative of being a part of PCOC.
And I would agree with everything you just said. I can see that from the sidelines. So just very grateful. So today specifically, we're here regarding a decision that came down regarding specifically sanitation work for the COVID-19. Is that right? No, COVID-19,
correct.
Virus, and allowing pest control businesses to perform those services for our communities.
Correct.
So anything you'd like to start off with that, Chris?
Yeah, as you might imagine, and thank you again, as you might imagine, there's been interest in the enforcement letter that came out last week, at the end of last week, from DPR. And let me first thank Director Val Dulcini and the team at DPR for really working diligently to put this together pretty quickly. As you know, for those of you who don't know, in order to do this, not only does the department have to sort of try to figure out, some way to put together an enforcement letter like this. It's a crisis, which is helpful. I mean, it makes people move faster. But also you have to go through the agency, which is Cal EPA, and the Office of Emergency Service and the Governor's Office. So something like this, it just, it doesn't happen quickly on a normal basis because of the challenges we face with COVID. They really move quickly. And I know, as I mentioned just previously, that, and I've had feedback too about, you have to have a QAL, which is we normally do anyway. You have to have a certain licensing requirement, A, P, or K. And we know that, I think there's some folks out there that thought there was going to be broader use. But I think, as you know, the department's responsibility, as you know, I was a former regulator, you sort of balance sort of broad use versus all the uses, and who the current license holders, et cetera. So I think they did a pretty good job considering everything and how rapidly they did it. The question really is for us, it seems, Cully, is this is a 90-day window, as you know. It's a temporary solution, 90-day. I've been asked what the question is, what if it goes beyond 90 days? And I said, look, let's cross that bridge when we get there. And the other issue too is, could there be broader use of, sort of all branch twos using this? And it seems to me after this that maybe we should have a discussion, our industry should have a discussion about if we want to have all branch two folks using this material, what does that look like? And I think we sit down with our industry, we sit down with the Department of Pesticide Regulation to figure out what that might look like, because it happens other places too. I mean, we worked years ago when I was still in government, we worked with the wineries about the spraying out of their barrels and their license requirements. And so this is something I think we can solve, but when you put together an enforcement order like this in such short notice, and you're also trying to protect the public, I mean, there's concerns too. It's not just willy-nilly, you're going to just apply this material and give it to whoever you want. I'm not suggesting that that would happen anyway. But what I am suggesting is you're balancing public protection needs along with the license holders that we have. So I just think we need to, after this is done, and by the way, it's going to go away. There's no question about it. We'll manage this, we'll move forward, but we need to figure out as an association, as an industry, if something like this to happen again, what do we do? And should we have our own separate licensing requirements? As you know, on licensing requirement now, you get into A and it talks about institutional and the whole broad spectrum. Then you get into microbial, then you get into, health related uses. And so the question for us is, do we need another license requirement? I don't know if we do, but I think it begs the question about if we see something like this again, should we be prepared to deal with it? Because think about our workforce. We have all these licensed people out there that can be very helpful. So that right. to me, that's sort of the direction, or that's the really issue should take away from this.
Right. So a couple, just in that regard, talking about the different categories on the QAL, the category P specifically is your microbial aspect of that license, and fighting those with pesticides. I mean, that's specifically what that category is for. So to me, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Once you realize what that's for. Category K, of course, is public health, and part of that, it's right in there that that's also for using sanitizers to fight, germs. So that one makes perfect sense. For me, as a pest control operator, I was a little confused by category A, because I've always been taught that even though that's residential, industrial, commercial, or institutional, it's outside only. There's always been this big push, at least on the structural side for us, that they're not supposed to be doing anything with the structure. And so I was a little shocked that one was put in there, just because even though they're around those structures, there's a whole different ballgame, as you and I know, going into those structures and treating them.
Yeah. Like I said, I think they always measure, Kali. I mean, I'm not going to speak for the department, but I think you're measuring, the public health issue in it too. And I think they were careful. I'll use the word careful about how broad they wanted to get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think, because we surely, might imagine, we talked to him, and let me say here too, Darren Van Steenwyk was really important in helping this too. He's our technical advisors in a lot of ways with the department, or with PCOC, and Darren was very, very helpful to us. And he worked very closely with some of the technical staff at DPR as well. So, but yeah, it's, the challenge I learned a long time ago is is you never make everyone happy. However, here's the thing. I think when you look at the QAL issue requirement, which everyone knows in our industry is essential, and then I believe putting in there also any, has any license for that temporary time. Remember, the language that's critical is any. And then I also think what's important too is the ag commissioners. And people forget, the ag commissioners are pesticide use enforcement at the local level. They're funded by the department across the state. There's 3 regional offices from DPR that helps provide oversight for the commissioners, works for the commissioners. And so I think the one thing I said last week, we sent a follow-up email blast that, please, folks, if you have any concerns or there's confusion about what you believe the enforcement letter says, call your local ag commissioner, because they're going to be intimately involved in it. I understand they already are. Imagine what you will. I mean, the department was getting a bunch of these requests, which wouldn't surprise you. But I made sure that talk to your ag commissioners, and I would really, really encourage, because as you know, there's language in there that gives requirements about the commissioners in terms of folks that don't have the current license and what they need to do, blah, blah, blah. So really, I hope that the folks talk to the ag commissioners. Most of our members, as you know, work with them anyway, have at least relationships with ag commissioners. And I would really encourage, if there's questions, we can talk about the broader question, Cully, that I just described to you regarding what this might look like in the future after this is all done.
Right.
But right now, we really hope our members that are applying this material under the existing enforcement letter talk to their local ag commissioners, because I think that they're very helpful, and they can be helpful and help guide us through this process.
Right. And the other thing is, they did make, I think, clear reference in the letter that they were making allowances with this with this ruling. So that probably more than anything explains why they included A. They wanted as many opportunities for organizations who want this type of service to be done, to be done correctly, as well as, by licensed individuals. Which
that's the key there, I think. I think the department, at least based on my experience, is you really want leadership under the licensed people. And the good news in our industry, and why I think this is beneficial, is think about it. We're a licensed industry. We're not only an essential industry, but we're a licensed industry. And so
absolutely,
if we can be really beneficial. And I think the department understood that too.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Is there anything you'd like to close with?
No, I just wanted to thank you again. This is a message that I know that we feel it's important. There was ongoing questions about it. And by the way, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at our office, or many of you have my phone number, but please don't hesitate to call me, and we'll make sure we answer them. Because I know, I think the enforcement letter is pretty straightforward, but if it isn't, and I've had numerous contacts still about this, if it isn't, then we'll try to help you sort of through this maze as we go down the road. So thank you, Cully.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Thanks again for being with us, Chris.
Happy to be here.
This is really good information that Chris and Cully discussed. We're going to have a link to this enforcement letter in the show notes below, so that way you can go and check that out for yourself and read it. Make sure you understand this before you get into any type of these services here in California. Now, I want to thank the Pest Control Operators of California for partnering with the Pest Posse to bring you this PCOC Minute. The Pest Control Operators of California wants to remind you to keep practicing that social distancing. Make sure you use your hand sanitizer, wash your hands often, and most of all of you stay safe and stay healthy until we see you at the next PCOC Minute.